I wouldn't be surprised if he takes a very run-heavy approach and just looks to run the clock out late in the game. I got to tell you about the most ridiculous promo we have going on and will probably ever run. Partnering with Yahoo Daily Fantasy Sports to give you guys 2 free months, completely free months of Awesemo Plus Platinum. That includes all of the tools that we have to offer on the site, not just for football, but for every single sport. And all of these tools, of course, created by the #1 DFS player out there, Alex Baker, Awesemo himself, who's won legitimately millions of dollars using these very tools. So go over, sign up at Yahoo Daily Fantasy Sports using the link in the description, deposit $10 or more, and get $180 worth of Awesemo Plus Platinum. We'll never run anything like this again. At least I hope we don't. So take advantage of it now, and we'll catch you over there. Antonio Gibson's first couple weeks had people who drafted him in the second round a little worried, but he bailed them out with a beautiful 73-yard touchdown reception in Week 3's ass-kicking at the hands of the Bills. That's not really going to cut it over the course of the season, though, given that Gibson was only targeted twice on the day. Still, he's a dynamic receiver who should absolutely be used in the passing game more, but will also get a lot more work on the ground so long as Washington's defense isn't a sieve every week. This week presents a perfect opportunity for Gibson to reestablish himself as the high-volume back we were hoping for this season, and the one we saw in Week 1 who had 20 carries and 25 total looks. And it's worth noting that Gibson leads J.D. McKissic in targets with 9 to 8 and has only run 5 fewer routes. The Week 4 matchup with Atlanta is fantastic, not because the Falcons' run defense has been disastrous, they've been middle of the road, but because Matt Ryan seems to be dust at this point, and they simply can't score points. Similar to what we talked about with Kittle, Ron Rivera will need to lean on one of his best skill players if they want to be successful, especially when Taylor Heineke is under center. This is as good a time as ever to make that happen, with Washington sitting as a slight favorite and a nice 25-point implied total at home. You got to ride with Gibson this week, even if his lightened workload over the last 2 weeks has been concerning. And think of it this way. The dude still has 82% of all running back carries in his backfield, so we know it belongs only to him. I told you guys at the beginning, I tell you every week, I'll tell you one more time. I'm not here to give you players that are playing great, that are elite, and that everyone knows to start. It'll waste your time and mine, okay? It's the players who you drafted as flex players or later, or the guys you drafted early who are underperforming and starting to spike your anxiety that I want to talk about. It's not only more interesting, but a lot more helpful, I'd hope. That's why we need to give Jonathan Taylor another shot this week. It's true that Taylor's explosion in the final quarter of his rookie season came against bad teams and worse defenses. But Taylor has been involved in mostly all negative game scripts to start the year, and the Colts ranked 21st in run play percentage, where last season they were 9th. He's still handling 67%.
What up? It's the Awesemo Odds NFL Betting Show presented by BetMGM. Pete McCarthy with Ben Rossa. And Ben, we're twinsies today, huh? We synchronized. Got the whole thing going here.
It's week 4, man. Had to pull out all the stops. We got the outfits now. That's the easy part. Now we just got to make the picks, right?
See, this is like the chemistry that builds over a few shows, and then you start dressing alike. It's a building of the whole thing. We appreciate you guys being involved. Give a like, subscribe. That helps us out. Get involved in the chat. You have any questions about games coming up? Maybe some player props you want us to discuss? Throw them in the chat. We'll mix them into the show. Kind of a revenge week feel. Hey, pal, how you doing week all the way across? We know about the Sunday night game with Tom Brady going back up to New England, but there's a lot of that going on that we'll get into, and if it should play into any of your picks on this particular day. Today's show also brought to you by our new sports betting podcast, Betting You. Ben and Matt Kajeski have you covered with everything college football betting as they take you through each conference and the best bets on the board. Betting You is available now wherever you get your podcasts, with new episodes dropping every Wednesday. That's a busy weekend for you, Ben. All those college games. We haven't hit the bye weeks yet in the NFL. There's a lot of studying and cramming going on over there.
Saturdays have been long days, to put it lightly, but you know what? We got through it yesterday. It wasn't perfect, but it wasn't that bad either. I feel pretty good going into today. And you said to me before the show, last week you didn't feel great, but this week you actually like the way the board's looking.
Yeah, I do. I have a lot of picks that I do like this week. And to be accountable, last week I was under 500 with my picks. I do remember you liked Detroit to potentially win that game against Baltimore. Nearly hit on that. Justin Tucker just this much good enough to make that happen. Did hit the best bet on the Packers on Sunday Night Football. Anything you learned last week that you kind of take into this week, or you just flush it?
Yeah, I learned that never, ever, ever should I be backing the Giants the way I did, because that team can't get out of their own way. But no, it's a thing in the NFL. We've seen it time and time again. We saw it Thursday as well. These really bad teams, that yes, they are bad, but it doesn't mean that they can't compete and honestly steal a win here or there. We saw that with Detroit having a chance. Jacksonville easily should have won on Thursday. There's a couple bad teams on this card that I'm sadly backing.
Yes. So I'll take Houston to win, right? We'll get into the Texans 17.5-point underdogs in Buffalo. That is the largest spread so far this season. One thing we've noticed, and I picked up on last week, look, the underdogs profitable again, 30-18 against the spread. When in doubt, take the points. You don't want to be Las Vegas -4 when that game goes into overtime. And I was kicking myself for second guessing that. I second guessed Dalvin Cook being out and kind of underrated Alexander Mattison in my head. Dude can run the ball a little bit. So we'll take all that into week 4 and find some winners for you. But I'm feeling good about the way this slate sets up. Again, check out our tools over at Awesemo. Today's free premium tools and data. I have the site there at awesemo.com. Last week it was the top stacks. So be sure to check out what is free over there today. Let's start off with Washington, Atlanta. Washington giving 1.5 in Atlanta. The Falcons kind of kicked both of us in the tuchus last week, beating the Giants 17-14. We still haven't seen this Washington defense take over a game. I would hope this is that day for Chase Young and crew. You got a statue in the pocket in Matt Ryan. You should be able to get after him a little bit. Does it finally happen and click for this Washington defense today?
That's the question, because, I think about this Atlanta team. I don't take anything from the Tampa game. I honestly don't take much from the Giant game. The game that really stands out is the Eagle game. In week 1, they were overwhelmed. Matt Ryan was under pressure immensely. When I think of Washington, I know it hasn't been that year to date. I still think of a team that can generate a lot of pressure and cause some problems. So I think that's the absolute theme of this game is, can Chase Young in this front force Matt Ryan to be uncomfortable? Because if they do that, I don't know how Atlanta functions even at home.
And I watched pretty much that entire Washington-Buffalo game last week. And Taylor Heineke hung in there for a while. Remember, they were down 21-0. All of a sudden, it's 21-14. They had a big special teams turnover that was a factor in that. But Heineke was able to make some plays, both with his arm, with his leg. But as they fell further behind, then you started to see him pressing, trying to do too much, throwing the ball into coverage, a few interceptions there. Ron Rivera said he had a little talk with Heineke about trying to do too much in those kinds of situations. But I still think this is a solid NFL quarterback. He has all the tools, has the ability there. So I do like Washington on both sides of the football here to be better than Atlanta, go on the road, come away with a victory.
I'm with you. It's definitely, when we look at all these games, the 15 games, it's probably towards the bottom in terms of priorities. I think there's a pretty fair line and a kind of 50-50 game. I do trust that Washington's going to be more of a factor long-term. And I really still believe in this defense, even though so far it has been wildly disappointing.
One where if you take a look at the NFL sports betting model over at Awesemo, there's a free trial still going on right now. It's a simulation model. It absolutely loves the Houston Texans, not to win. It's not that crazy, but to cover 17.5 points in Buffalo. The thing is with this Bills team, when they have beaten teams, they have just thrashed them over the last year or so. And Houston, obviously a team capable of being thrashed. We'll see if they allow the rookie quarterback to do a little bit more, really kept the shackles on him Thursday Night Football against Carolina. This is a game that I looked at it and said, Buffalo's about 12 points better at home than Houston. And then you see the line at 17.5. I hate big lines like this. It's the NFL. This is not the SEC, and you're going to have some 50-point blowout in the mix. I regretfully kind of have to back Houston here, getting the full 17.5. It's not even 16.5. That extra half point actually matters when you're talking about 17.
It definitely matters. It's a key number that's probably not talked about because who the hell is worried about 17 in pro football? But here we are. And again, I think that even for teasers and stuff, I don't really like the Bills. I'm sure they'll be just fine, but it's such a large number. I really wouldn't want to mess. It would be Houston or pass for me, clearly. And I've said this on this Awesemo Odds channel, which is why hit that subscribe button if you haven't. We're doing Survivor episodes each and every week. If you want the free pass this week, clearly it's Buffalo. I think we all know that. But in terms of this spread itself, it would be the dog or pass. And we've seen this. We've seen big time numbers. And I'm not going to say rarely does the big time favorite cover, but a lot of times the game is more competitive than it seems. Houston's not going to win this game, but I think they could keep it more respectable than that type of number.
And one guy who's been a big factor offensively for Houston, how about Brandon Cooks? No matter who's been at quarterback, whether it's Jefferson Mills, whether it's Tyrod Taylor, he has been impactful over the course of this year. So I'm all in on that. We got a poll that just went up at the chat. Favorite color collared shirt: blue, 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 or blue?
I almost went with the orange. Normally on Sundays, when Ricky Fowler was relevant in golf, I would wear orange to support him. But he's so bad that I can't do that anymore. I had to go with the blue and be part of the crew here.
We're all business today. We're all business. Yeah. So we both like Houston, and we will put some clothespins over our nose on that one and hope it's not a blowout by the midway through the second quarter. But as you said, Thursday night, we saw it with Jacksonville. Everyone locks in. Everyone's going to pick Buffalo to win this game. And 17.5 points. What's 17.5 points? 17.5 points is a ton in the NFL. Come on.
Yeah, a lot.
All right, let's get to Detroit, Chicago. Detroit nearly pulling off the big upset against Baltimore last week. They're getting 3 points. We now know Justin Fields will indeed be the starting quarterback for the Chicago Bears. It did not go so well for Mr. Fields last week against Cleveland. Not a whole lot of offense at all for the Chicago Bears. He gets a second start. My question is, they still haven't committed to him being the quarterback. He's starting because Andy Dalton is doubtful. So he's going to be running Andy Dalton's offense again. They don't take advantage of Justin Fields at all. At least they didn't on Cleveland, the things that he does well. So, Detroit seems to be a capable team. They had a lead at halftime against the Packers at Lambeau Field as well. You're getting 3 points. The game's in Chicago. You probably have some Lions fans in the mix there. How are we feeling about Lions-Bears?
Yeah, divisional game. I mean, for the Bears, you got to have this one. There's no doubt about it. This is not at Cleveland. This is home to Detroit. Field should be a lot better. You got to keep him upright. 9 sacks is just unacceptable. I don't care who you're going against. The thing I look at with this line, it seems like Detroit is taking the majority of the money. So as someone that I think I'm leaning Chicago, I would wait and see if it can tick to 2.5. And the minute it does, I would hit it. At 3, obviously, it's a little trickier, but I think Chicago will look a lot better. I would hope that they can at least lean on Fields' athleticism a little more than we've seen. And this is still a very bad Detroit defense. They are dead last in the league in passing yards allowed per attempt, 9.6 per attempt. That's absolutely abysmal. I know it's the Bears and they're not really built to exploit that, but you still think at home they should be able to figure this out.
Well, I think, we could both agree on this, at least probably. Justin Fields, 188.5 passing yards. That's the over-under on that player prop. I like the over on that for Mr. Fields. I think they'll be playing from behind a little bit, but even if you like them playing from ahead, we're not talking about a lot of passing yards here. You get that done in the first half.
Yeah, I mean, again, this is a secondary. Cleveland is a very good team, and they were in Cleveland. I think that is masking what is the Detroit team that's, they at times their offense looks good, but I haven't seen anything from this defense that worries me, even with a dysfunctional team like Chicago. So I'm going to wait, hope that it gets to 2.5 and then pounce.
And then jump on all that. Okay. Well, if it sticks at 3, I do like to try. I'm going to, dabble in all these games. I play, pools. So I got to pick all the games through the 16. So I always figure something out there, but that would be one that, yes, I understand the patience on that. Get ready to turn big plays into paydays. We got a new offer with BetMGM. If you're not familiar with it, be sure to take advantage of it if it's available in your state. If you are a new BetMGM user, all you have to do is deposit at least $10 into BetMGM using the link in the description of this video. and make your first bet. You do that, then you'll get 3 free months of Awesemo Plus Platinum. That's 3 free months of Awesemo Plus Platinum, which gives you full access to everything we have to offer at Daily Fantasy, season-long fantasy football, and betting for all sports. New customers also start with a risk-free bet up to $1,000 upon deposit. Register now, make your first bet, and go all in on the action with the king of sportsbooks. Offer valid in Arizona, Colorado, Indiana, Iowa, Michigan, Nevada, New Jersey, Pennsylvania, Tennessee, Virginia, Washington, D.C., and West Virginia. Terms and conditions apply. So it's a great time of year, as we talked about as well. You got all the baseball playoffs coming up Tuesday and Wednesday. Will be a lot of fun with those wild card games you could dabble in as well and get all that information from Awesemo to help you make your picks. We're helping you out as well as we get to what I think is one of the real fun games of the day. The Carolina Panthers going to Dallas, visiting the Cowboys. The Cowboys have been terrific to start this year. Everybody got to see it again on Monday Night Football against the Philadelphia Eagles. Meanwhile, Carolina, without Christian McCaffrey, but they are 3-0, a team led by its defense. How do you see this one coming together? The Panthers are getting significant points here at 4.5.
Yeah, 4.5. I've seen 5 in some spots as well. I think this is one of the few teams that we're really going to find out a lot of information. Carolina is a fine team. I don't know if they're 3-0 worthy. And you look at who they've beat. They took care of a couple real bad teams. They beat Houston. They beat the Jets. A good win against New Orleans at home, but I didn't like that spot in week 2 for New Orleans. They had a lot of drama surrounding a lot of different areas. So we're going to find out a lot about Sam Darnold and a lot about this Panthers team. You mentioned McCaffrey going down. That's a big problem. They lost a key cornerback on the other side. I think that's a big problem against Dallas. I'm already making my case. I like Dallas. I was really impressed, not just with Dak, but with the defense against Jalen Hurts. Those linebackers, particularly the rookie, looked fantastic. Even with the losses, I think Dallas is an actually underrated team. I see them winning this game going away.
The Cowboys are causing a number of turnovers. That's been the big thing they've been able to do defensively this year. And you got to give credit to Dan Quinn, a new defensive coordinator in town there under Mike McCarthy. He's got a lot of success, Legion of Boom, the whole 9 yards there as a coordinator. And sometimes you underrate guys when they become head coaches. You get tied to 28-3 and all that. It's a little different. You go back to being a coordinator. You get to just focus on the X's and O's. Quinn has had some success there. I will say, I think these teams are relatively close. I don't want to start overrating Dallas. They've looked very impressive. I love the way they play against the Bucs in the first game of the season. I've been on them the last couple of weeks, but 4.5 points against at least a quality team. We could say the Carolina Panthers are a quality team. That's a little steep for me. And I think this is more of a low scoring game than people might think. I think that the Carolina's defense is going to be able to slow this game down a little bit, slow down that Cowboys offense, and make it a little bit more of a grinded out where maybe Dallas winning by a field goal, not covering the 4.5.
It's clearly that's the game script that Carolina wants right now. They've been absolutely dominant, not just against the run, but the pass as well. I think for me, I am attributing that a lot to who they've played. Honestly, Davis Mills, Zach Wilson, and Jameis, who's fine. But again, New Orleans was really not functioning at that point. So I think Dak is going to present a lot of challenges they haven't seen. If this offense with Sam Darnold and Chuba and DJ Moore can move the ball and be effective here, that would go a long way. And I will have to say that they'll be real contenders in the South. And that's something I really didn't expect this year.
Yeah, that's a tough division. They are very much in the mix. Hey, you win your first 3 games, you're going to be in the mix. And that Panthers team, I will say they feel like they're slipping under the radar a little bit. Matt Rule is totally cool with that, but feel they're not getting the credit they deserve for being 3-0 for the reasons you listed, who they've beat so far this season. Another one of these little revenge games that we get to here. Jacoby Brissett. Yeah, Tom Brady's not the only quarterback taking on his old team. Jacoby Brissett taking on the Colts. Dolphins are at home. Dolphins a 2-point favorite in this game. Big injury for Indianapolis. Quentin Nelson, the all-pro guard, he hits the IR with a high ankle sprain. The Colts really haven't been very impressive. Miami has a terrific defense. They're only given 2 points. I like Miami in this spot, but I know you've been big on Indianapolis really from the get-go. Are you still a believer in Carson Wentz and company?
I am a believer in Carson Wentz, which for reasons unknown, but I don't particularly, it's weird because I look at this two ways. This is it for the Colts. They've had a brutal start to the season. Seattle, the Rams, at Tennessee. I don't think it's that bad that they're 0-3. You got to win this game. You can't go 0-4. You've got to beat the Dolphins here. And I don't think it's the easiest spot. Nelson going down. I do think it's a Jonathan Taylor type game. They need to lean on him. But on the other side, their defense has not been great. Bottom 5 secondary right now in passing yards allowed per attempt. I actually think Jacoby Brissett might be pretty active in this game. I looked at his prop a little bit, 212.5 passing yards. I think that if this game gets a little more up and down, we could see Brissett have a pretty effective game. So tough one. Head leans to the Dolphins, heart leans to the Colts. I have a feeling Indy might be 0-4 after this one.
Yeah, I do like Miami as well in this spot. And I agree with you on Jacoby Brissett hitting the over on the passing yards there. Look, give Miami credit for what they were able to do against Las Vegas last week. The Raiders, they've been an impressive team thus far. Miami was able to come from behind. You hope they figured something out with Jacoby Brissett now at quarterback for Tua Tagovailoa. They got to keep this season alive before Tua comes back, and who knows, maybe Brissett Wally pips Tua in this whole opportunity here. But I'm with you. I like Miami. Only given 2 points in this spot. You know, again, those magic numbers, the difference between 2.5, 3.5 around that field goal is so big. We talked about it a little bit with the Bears Lions game today. Another spot where it matters. It mattered last week for Miami getting 4 points instead of, say, 2, and they ended up losing by 3 to the Las Vegas Raiders. Really interesting game, and the Kevin Stefanski Bowl. Cleveland visiting Minnesota. The Browns favored by 1.5. Myles Garrett coming off that fantastic game, 4.5 sacks against Justin Fields and the Chicago Bears. I think these teams are really even when you look at them statistically, what they've done so far this year. How do you set up this game between the Browns and Vikings, Kirk Cousins, Baker Mayfield getting after one another?
Definitely an interesting game. And we saw Minnesota, and I wasn't shocked to see this. They got up off the mat. 2 tough losses to start the year. Should have beat Arizona in week 2. They handled Seattle nicely at home last week in a similar, basically the same spread. They were like a 1-point dog at home, and they looked really good. I think this is going to be a very difficult challenge. I like the over. I expect both teams to really move the ball. I'll be honest. Minnesota's secondary is just straight bad, 30th in the league right now in passing yards allowed per attempt. I think Baker getting Odell back will really help. Chubb should be active. And then even though it's Kirk Cousins, say what you want about him, at times he really does flash brilliance. And I can see why they at times want to hitch their franchise to him. He's got 2 alphas on the outside. The backfield, regardless, Madison showed that he's not Dalvin Cook, but he's damn close. He's a really good player. I think a lot of points in this one. If I had to take a pick, I would go with the Browns. I think they get it done, but I expect both teams to possibly land upper 20s, low 30s in points today.
Yeah, I like Cleveland as well. It's odd to talk about, a Mike Zimmer-led defense and say they're not very good, but Minnesota's defense has been horrendous thus far this year. I mean, it's Kirk Cousins in shootouts. And to your point, Cousins has played well this year. I think he's up to now 200 pass attempts without an interception. So, he's done what he could do to try to keep the Vikings in these games. That's meant score a lot of points.
I mean, yeah, it seems like their only out is to outscore these teams. If you can, we saw what Justin Fields had to experience. If you can hold up against the pressure, I think that Cleveland's defense also could be exposed, particularly in the secondary. So that'll be a big test for them. I think Cousins and these receivers will do their part. I just don't know on the other side what they're going to do to mitigate Chubb and these tight ends and Odell, who looked pretty good returning. It could be a tough day for Minnesota.
We've seen some top receivers have some big days already against Minnesota this season. Odell Beckham Jr. perhaps primed to do the same here. I also like Cleveland. I'll give the 1.5 there in Minnesota. The New Orleans Saints finally back in the Superdome. They're given 7.5 points. The New York Giants, we might have some lingering ill feelings towards Big Blue for the way last week went against the Atlanta Falcons, but you got to try to toss that out. People are going to talk about this Giants team being desperate, but I also wonder, look, this is a bad team for years now. You start 0-3. You go down 14 points in the first quarter. I feel like you start breaking a team's back in these kinds of spots. In New Orleans, we've seen it at times this year. They're capable of putting up a lot of points. Imagine if they start getting Alvin Kamara involved in this whole thing in New Orleans.
Yeah, I don't think the Giants desperate. There's no relegation, so they really have nothing to worry about, to be honest, because they're not going anywhere. It doesn't really matter. This team is completely dysfunctional. They gave the game away last week. My biggest issue isn't that. It's that in that game, they lost Shepard, they lost Slayton. Now you've got Kenny Galladay and Evan Ingram tasked to be the pass catchers. Saquon is in the backfield. New Orleans, much like Tampa Bay, it's almost impossible to run against that front. They're allowing 2.8 yards per carry. That's second in the league. So what are the Giants going to do offensively? Are they going to get Daniel Jones on the edge and try to run? Are they going to go to Galladay and Ingram? I just don't see many ways they manufacture points. So it could be a long day. You mentioned if Kamara gets involved, I think the Saints kind of slowly overwhelm them. Low scoring, but this kind of feels like a 27-10 type game where New Orleans slowly strangles them.
And, you look around the league at this point, it used to be the rule was home field advantage worth about 3 points on the spread. I only do 2 points now. And in certain spots, I'll move that around a little bit, like the Chargers. They don't have a home field advantage, right?
They lose points for being at home.
When they're at home. But you look at New Orleans, they haven't had a full crowd at a game. Forget about just not having a home game so far this season because of Hurricane Ida. But last year, obviously the pandemic, not having that place full. This is an amazing city atmosphere when everybody is in on the Saints. This isn't a stadium where you see a bunch of road fans and there's going to be a bunch of blue jerseys taking over. This is a serious home field advantage. And if you're already worried about the Giants having an inability to score points, the weapons aren't going to be there, then you start adding up the false starts, the miscommunications, all of that. I mean, this just sets up to me to be a very long day for the Giants.
Yeah, I don't think they're equipped to handle a team like this. The injuries aren't helping. And when I look at New Orleans, again, I don't think it's the best version of them right now, but at the same time, they have some things that will cause enough problems. They'll be getting healthier. And Kamara, it's very confusing. And we're certainly going to be talking about this over on the DFS channel starting at 10 a.m., breaking it all down. They're giving him a ton of carries, career high 24 carries. I'm interested to see if that starts to dissipate and they move him more into a passing game where he's more comfortable, it seems like. But regardless of that, I think that the Giants are going to be in for a pretty long day. As Chad is pointing out, I think it is Saints or pass here.
And that might be a Jameis thing as well. I mean, we saw last year when Taysom Hill was starting at quarterback, all of a sudden Kamara wasn't involved in the passing game, something that Drew Brees, just get him the ball in space, let him make some moves and see what happens. It's worked in the past.
Totally agree.
Let's get to another one of those big underdogs. The Jets, I mean, honestly, it could be a bigger line to some degree. They're getting 7 points on their home field against the Tennessee Titans. The Jets, as a former season ticket holder, I can tell you have one of the worst home field advantages in the game. It'll be half Titans fans showing up at MetLife Stadium. Jets offense, 2 touchdowns all season. 2 touchdowns all season, came in the opener against Carolina. Tennessee, though, is banged up. There is no A.J. Brown. There is no Julio Jones for the Tennessee Titans. Yes, they still have Derrick Henry, but you don't have the big-time options outside that you're accustomed to seeing. It's kind of, does Tennessee score enough points to cover 7, a full touchdown on the road against the Jets?
So this is the game that I was alluding to earlier in the show. The Jets are awful. They're absolutely terrible, but this is the NFL. And these teams, like the Lions last week, they play more competitive than you think. First of all, if you can get 7, you got to do it because this line is moving. The Jets are taking all the money somehow. It has crossed 7 at a lot of places. If you found 7.5 early in the week, obviously you've done your job. You've captured the value. I don't know if they can stop Derrick Henry. There is a chance that Derrick Henry just ends this game and they lean on him, and that's that. But when you look at the way that the Titans are constructed right now, if the Jets are able to even keep him honest on the ground, I don't know what else they're really going to be able to do. And if Zach Wilson, he doesn't have to be great. If he doesn't turn the ball over today, I think this will be a pretty close game. I'm not going to say the Jets are going to win the game, but if you're going to give me 7, I'd gladly take it. 6.5 or 6, it's a little different conversation. I think you probably missed it, but don't be surprised if the Jets play it close today, even though they're a very, very bad team.
And I like to, crunch some numbers and kind of do my own unique thing. I ended up with the Titans only favored by 3. That's what I thought was a fair line going in, which shocked me. And it's not because, we're overrating what the Jets are. It's because the Titans aren't very good. Defensively, they have not been good at all this year. And look, you take away two of their top wideouts in this spot. Yeah, how many points are they really going to be able to put together here? And it really all hinges on, can you get Derrick Henry to 150 rushing yards and make that happen? So I do think the Jets are able to hang around in this game. And, again, you don't always feel great about these picks, especially when you're taking the points, but that doesn't mean it's not the smart way to go.
It's last thing I'll say about this. The Jets are not a good offense. That's confirmed. But here's who they've played. They played at Carolina, home to New England, and at Denver. I think we'd all agree those are all clearly top half defenses, and they could be fringing on top 10 defenses, all three. So the Titans are going to be the easiest opponent that Zach Wilson in this offense has seen to date. And I think we see a little more productivity, which could translate, again, to a pretty close game.
Are you an Awesemo Hall of Famer, Ben?
Me? I don't know if I get like legacy status there, but I know that Hall of Fame, I'll tell you this, Pete, it is expanding because some of these screenshots that we've had lately, dangerously insane, which is very, very exciting.
Yeah, if you're interested in joining the Hall of Fame, which, look, the Hall of Fame's like kind of the little cutesy part of it. I mean, you're getting big money, but download the Awesemo avatar, awesemo.com/avatar. If you play DFS, place in the top 3 of a contest with over 5,000 contestants. Tweet the win to the @AwesemoHOF account on Twitter. You win a free month of Awesemo Plus Platinum. And, you already won a bunch of money. So that's pretty good. So get that Awesemo avatar. Really, no reason not to. You get potentially a free month here. And look, it's a nice place to be. I'll let you on the show. You can give a speech.
Why not?
Thing,
If you win, with that screenshot on the screen is from Thursday. This Thursday, guy took down a cool 560K. If you do that, you get some street cred. You get in the Hall of Fame. I think you're feeling pretty good for the week.
Yeah, the 560K is kind of like the important thing to me. But
the Hall of Fame is
you're a Hall of Famer.
Can't put a price on that.
You don't get a gold jacket, but you could buy a gold jacket, and then
you get a blue collared shirt, though. Let me tell you. So
you get the blue collared shirt. That's right.
That's right.
the Awesemo Hall of Fame look. Andy Reid is heading back to Philadelphia to take on the Eagles. The Chiefs are a 7-point favorite here. Interesting stat, and I never really hold these in high regard, but the Chiefs are 2-12 against the spread in their last 14 games, including the playoffs. They're often a heavy favorite, and they have played a lot of close games going back to last season. The Chiefs have also really struggled to contain the rush, over 160 rushing yards per game. That's 31st in the NFL. Are you willing to give up the 7 in Philadelphia for this Chiefs team that hasn't quite looked like the Chiefs this year?
They really haven't. And I'm a little upset that the Chiefs, not that they gave that game away. I kind of wish they won. They stole it last week from the Chargers, because if that was the case, I would really be honing in on the Eagles here. I still lean to Philadelphia because of that deficiency with Kansas City. They have a clear problem. And I would hope after Monday Night Football, where Miles Sanders got 2 carries in a game, that the Eagles are going to make it a priority to get him involved. And if they do, I think they're going to have a lot of success here. You mentioned that Kansas City cannot stop the run. I do think they're the better team, but this is not a team that is just sleepwalking. They have not been good this year. They've really allowed a lot of points in all 3 games, quality opponents. But to me, on the road, this is not the easiest spot. So although it's just 7, I would look for the hook. That's a big half point. I think the Eagles will score with them today. Kansas City probably gets it done, but I'd take the points if I had to make a wager.
I'm with you. I'd take the points. And look, if you're going to back Kansas City, I think you got to hope. Last week was kind of eye-opening for that team, that after the Chargers missed the extra point, it's kind of, okay, here comes Patrick Mahomes rolling him down the field, and he wasn't able to do it. And we just haven't seen him fail in those spots a whole lot over the course of his young and magnificent career. But you can't, if you're the Chiefs, just sit back and wait for Mahomes to win you the game in the final 2 minutes, week after week after week. That is not something that is going to hit every single time. And, you got to hope that they are able to blow out this Eagles team. But, again, I just haven't seen it from Kansas City. I got to see them roll a little bit before I'm taking them on the road against a decent football team to cover by a touchdown. That's a big spot.
It is. I think a lot of people are seeing that. I think Philly's going to be taking more and more money as we get closer to kickoff here. And we'll see. Maybe it wakes Mahomes and this team up, but you mentioned it. I think everyone, and those numbers, I don't really look at long-term against the spread either, but it does indicate that the market in general is overrating the Chiefs in terms of the perception of them versus what they're actually doing on the field.
Tyler throws in the chat, Jalen Hurts, his rushing total over under 55.5 rushing yards.
So that's something that I do like. I was really on that against Dallas. I lost that prop, but to me, it was more of a volume issue than an ineffective. And I think today you could go to Miles Sanders at 56.5 rushing yards, or you could go to the quarterback with Hurts. Either one of those I lean over. I think that you could get ample opportunities on the ground for this team as a whole after what we saw Monday.
Ideally, you're getting both of them going on the ground
Sure.
if you're Philadelphia with how bad this Kansas City run defense has been. And maybe that is a matchup that plays in Philadelphia's favor. We both like the Eagles in this spot. Two terrific games in the NFC West. We'll start with the Cardinals and the Rams. You know, the first thought is, man, who's stopping these offenses? What Kyler Murray has been able to do and Matthew Stafford. But these are two pretty good defenses too, with Aaron Donald and Chandler Jones all loaded up. Jones with an opportunity to become the Cardinals' all-time leading sacks guy over the course of this game. So the Rams, they're given 4 points coming off their big win against Tampa Bay. You know, I was worried a little bit about teams coming off that kind of win and that kind of spot. You see the emotion from the head coach. Sean McVay is running into the tunnel at halftime, emotional throughout. He's running down the field to congratulate Deshaun Jackson getting involved last week. I don't know. I feel a little hangover here for the Rams. How are you liking them against Arizona?
Yeah, these are just good teams, no doubt about it. And I think the market is agreeing with you. Arizona's taken some money this week. It was at 5.5 at one point, down to 4. I don't know exactly what the Rams are going to be able to throw at Kyler Murray. He's just different. He's different than the guys they've played. He's different than Tom Brady. He has been a little reluctant to run so far this year. He's only got 17 carries through 3 games. He doesn't have more than 31 yards rushing, but he also has 3 scores on the ground. So I do think that's something they're going to have to deal with. And when you look at this Cardinals team, it's just a really prolific attack. I'm interested to see the Hopkins versus Ramsey matchup today. I look at it as a kind of a toss-up game. So when you're going to tell me I'm going to get 4 points, I'll take the Cardinals. I think the West is an incredibly strong division. All these teams are going to have their moments. I like the Rams in life. But to me, 50-50 type game, give me the points.
I agree 1,000%. Yes. I had the spread exactly at Rams favored by 4, being on their home field. That's the spread. So, you know, look, that was kind of the lesson I took away from last week. And I think it's a good lesson in general when you're betting the NFL. Take the points when you're in doubt, especially if they're over a field goal as they are in this spot. I think we expect that to be a really entertaining game and hopefully a close game if you're backing the Arizona Cardinals. Then you have the Niners hosting the Seattle Seahawks. Seattle's been disappointing so far this year to the point that San Francisco is a field goal favorite on their home field. Big question to me, can the Niners cover DK Metcalf and Tyler Lockett? We've seen some receivers have some big games against them, including Devontae Adams on Sunday night.
Yeah, these are weird. This is the other half of that division. I don't know what to make of the Niners. You know, they got by the Lions pretty comfortably, even though the score didn't look it. Dominated the Eagles a little, particularly defensively. Then they lost that tough game to Green Bay. This is tough, though, facing a wounded Seattle team. You mentioned they've got Lockett, they've got Metcalf. I think Carson could have an effective game. And then I do want to keep an eye on exactly what's going on with George Kittle. He is someone that we haven't seen him explode just yet, but he's such an integral part of that offense. If it is just Deebo Samuel out there, I lean to Seattle here. So I'm a little worried about where the Niners are at. Again, a very difficult game to bet, in my opinion. 2 very competitive teams out in that West division. I'm going to lean to the Seahawks. It's kind of a macro buy coming off a disappointing loss last week to Minnesota.
Yeah, I like Seattle as well in this spot. You're getting the points, and if you get that full field goal, that's certainly a nice way to go. And again, San Francisco's had a tough time, covered some of these top receivers. And while Jimmy Garoppolo drove down the field last week, could have been the story until Aaron Rodgers hits a couple of passes. They get the long field goal out of Mason Crosby, but that's the way it goes. But this Seattle team, look, man, they gotta find a way to win this game. We're hitting the home stretch here. We still have the Tom Brady Bowl to come, and we'll be telling your thoughts on the Sunday night game. Of course, give us a like, subscribe if you're enjoying what we're doing here. And then you can keep up with all of our shows, DFS offers or giveaways, and much, much more. And once you do subscribe, hit the notification button. You get alerts when our shows go live. I mean, heck, put it in your Google Calendar, 9 a.m. every Sunday. Grab your coffee, Put some Baileys in it, make some eggs, sit here, make it part of your Sunday routine, get you started the right way.
What's more to say? Well said. I was going to go take it one step further and go straight memento, just tattoo the schedule on your body. But you know what? Let's start. Google, put it in your calendar. Don't forget these shows. Each and every week, we're going to be bringing you these Awesemo odds betting shows.
Well, when we, combined hit all 16 games one of these weeks, then yes, everyone who watches, I believe it'll be mandatory for them to get a tattoo of the show.
Correct.
Yeah, I think
that's
fair.
The rules.
I don't make the rules against the Baltimore Ravens. Broncos favored by 1. Yeah, this is again kind of like the Jets game where you look at the spread and you're like, wait, the Broncos are a favorite against the Baltimore Ravens, but then you dig into it a little bit more and it's, that's why this does make sense. Denver's defense has been terrific this year. We saw Baltimore need to get bailed out by a 66-yard field goal at the end there in Detroit. I'll leave it to you open here. How do you like this game?
Fascinating one. To me, I equate it partially what you just said. I'm going to also throw in a partial Carolina take. Denver's 3-0, but I don't know how good they really are. And that's not their fault. It's just a product of their schedule. They have beat up on both New York teams, which is very, very bad, and the Jaguars. So they've done what they've needed to do. They haven't seen anything like Baltimore, but they are at home. And Baltimore, I don't think is that good. This is a team that's got a lot of injuries. They've really struggled at times. Hollywood Brown last week was as dysfunctional as I've seen a top-end receiver. He could not catch the ball. Lamar is doing everything. He's a little banged up already this year. I think that's a big storyline. I think Denver's going to play pretty well. I do think they're 3-0 by a product of their schedule, but I don't think Baltimore is nearly as good as people think right now. So I'm going to take the Broncos to move to 4-0, which would be a big surprise.
What does that say about the Chiefs? They, you don't think the Ravens are very good right now, right? I mean, that kind of dives together where even the best game, right? One of the best entertaining games we've seen so far this season is another one of those things where, the Chiefs are eking by or unable to win a game against a not so great opponent with all the injuries Baltimore has dealt with.
Yeah. I mean, I think it just speaks to in the NFL, you see flashes. Baltimore's a fantastic team at moments. And that was kind of part of the reason why I did like the Lions last week is because there was a hangover effect. That was an emotional big time win by Baltimore. Now they go to Denver after that type of win. I don't know exactly where this team is at. So again, towards the bottom of my card, this is not near like lock it up territory. No, thank you. But I think Denver, in a game in Mile High can move to 4-0 here.
And I thought the spread, I had Denver -1, exactly where it's at. So I don't see, a whole lot of value one way or the other. But I do like games where at first blush, you're like, wait, this doesn't make sense. And then when you do look into it, you kind of go, oh, okay. Like, I get it now. I see that the Broncos, maybe they are being a little underrated and the Ravens are being overrated. And then I tend to like those spots because, well, the public usually doesn't get it right. And if you're just, circling team names you're familiar with, you're usually not doing so hot with this kind of stuff.
No doubt about it. Yeah, I think we see a lot of that. And this is a game, I think it's a good data point. No matter what happens, we're going to learn a lot about both these teams today.
All right, let's get to the struggling Steelers. They are visiting Green Bay, 6.5 point spread here. Chase Claypool out for the Steelers as if they don't have enough problems. The big plus, though, and this to me is the key to this game, TJ Watt is expected to play for Pittsburgh. Can the Steelers stay in the mix at Lambeau Field?
I think they could put forward a decent effort, particularly causing Rodgers some problems. This team, talk about name recognition versus reality. The Steelers offense is straight non-functional. Big Ben is absolutely cooked right now. It seems like
the line is terrible.
Yeah, the line is a mess. Claypool is hurt. The only thing that they have, and I don't know if it's a good thing or a bad thing, they have decided to turn Najee Harris into just Kamara on steroids right now. He had 19 targets in the last game. I think he's a fantastic player, but clearly he can't do everything here. I'd be lying if I said I didn't look at his receptions prop, which is 4.5. I do think that there's a product that they have no choice. They have to give him a ton of targets again today because they just can't do anything down the field. This line can't hold up. I am not backing Pittsburgh until further notice. I think this team is really, really in trouble right now. So Green Bay or pass. If you want to go with the kind of ride the narrative, I do think Najee once again is going to be very busy through the passing game.
I did see the Awesemo betting model. It really likes Pittsburgh to cover this particular game, and yeah, it's a good bet to win as well at plus 240. I don't know how much that takes into account. Chase Claypool not being in there was just rolled out yesterday, but yeah, I always like to take into account the numbers a little bit and what they're saying. And sometimes I do think there's a pile-on effect, especially for a team like the Steelers that has expectations, and you feel like the sky is absolutely falling on some of these teams because every talk radio show is just pounding the Steelers. They stink. Roethlisberger's cooked, right? The whole 9 yards. And sometimes reality isn't that dismal. It's 6.5 points. We're talking about a lot.
It is a lot
against Green Bay.
And I mean, listen, speak to the other side of it, even though I am really worried about this team, they did beat Buffalo on the road this year. Like it's not like they can't do it. We've seen it. I just worry a little about what this offense can do week in and week out right now. It seems like Big Ben is just desperate. He's just they're fourth. I know it's one play and you shouldn't overrate it, but in a key moment last week on 4th and 10, they basically should have just punted at that point. They gave Najee Harris a screen pass that had basically no chance to work, and it just looked like they have no ability to push the ball down the field at this point.
Stay away, or do you genuinely like Green Bay?
It would be Green Bay or pass, but if I say I was picking 5 games, this would not be one of the 5. No.
Okay. Sunday night. Yeah, get in on this game. This is going to be fun.
This is going to be wild.
New England getting 7 points against Tom Brady and the Bucs. I think the best part of this whole thing is going to be, Bill Belichick always does such a great job of game planning against certain players. Now he's got someone he's so familiar with, but I think we all kind of know how to contain Tom Brady, right? You're not going to blitz. You're going to rush 4. You got to get pressure. It's how the Giants did in the Super Bowls. But it's a really hard thing to do, even if it sounds very simple there. But I feel like Belichick's going to want to keep everything in front with Brady, not let him try to beat them over the top. Key thing, red zone, no Rob Gronkowski in this game with the fractured ribs, 4 touchdowns already this year, and then 2 more in the Super Bowl last year. It's a big goal line weapon that will not be there for Tampa Bay. Do you see Tom Brady walking back into New England, not only winning this game, but blowing them out in order to cover 7?
I don't know about blowing them out. I actually think it could be more methodical than the line. The total's 49 right now. I think New England and Belichick is smart. He understands. Let's lean, even though this is very difficult against Tampa, let's slow it down. Let's try to establish either a run game or some type of James White would be very useful. If that's really unfortunate for them, but I think that's what they want to do. And you mentioned it. We've seen that with the Giants, the Jets one time in the playoffs, the only good moment that franchise has ever had, did it to the Patriots. I just don't know exactly what this New England team can do offensively is if Harris is taken out of this game. That's my biggest concern. They seem content to say, Mac Jones, don't lose the game. We'll figure out the rest. Against Tampa, I don't think you have the luxury of doing that because they're just so prolific, even without Gronk. These receivers are really going to test New England. So I'm going to throw this right to you. I'm kind of punting the question. I do think Tampa will be effective offensively, maybe not in a large capacity, but I'm not sure what New England gives you at all at this point.
I really like New England in this spot. I had them as a 4-point dog, and they're a 7-point dog. So I'll take the little extra there. I always like getting the points, a home dog as well. There's going to be a lot of emotion involved, certainly for Brady. And as much as stoic as he could be, and maybe he's able to kick it by the second quarter, you're going to have some butterflies early on, I think, with him going back to New England and getting all the nostalgia, the video. The fans are going to react really positively to him. And I do think that, look, Belichick, he always has something up his sleeve. He has someone up his sleeve for all of these matchups, all these games. And you got to think that he'll have a little something to throw Brady off for a short period of time. And then, offensively, that's where the question is for New England. Are they in a position where, the run game gets stuffed and Mac Jones has to go outside of his comfort zone and start to make some plays? We saw he really wasn't able to do that coming from behind against New Orleans last week. This game needs to be close the entire way. But look, this is the way we want it all set up, right? Tampa Bay down 4, 2 minutes to go. Brady has the ball. Give me the big TV ratings, the big moment we all want. And even if the Bucs win and Brady walks them down the field, I'm winning with New England on the points.
Fair enough. Yeah. And I will say one of the themes for me all year, Tampa Bay secondary, I think, is atrocious. I really do. So Mac Jones could have some opportunities and maybe even some success because you're not going to be able to run realistically against Tampa's front. So going to be a fascinating game. I cannot wait to watch it. Just like everybody else, something we've never seen before.
That's my lock it up. I like New England.
Oh.
I'll take the 7. Yeah, I really
All right.
am big on the Pats in this spot. I think it's gonna be a good situation for them here. How what do you like? What's your number one bet of the day?
I'm going to go to one of the games we talked about earlier. I'm really banking that Carolina, although I like them, are going to get a little exposed today. I think Dallas at home teaches them a lesson. We're going to see Carolina's defense struggle a bit. And when Sam Darnold is asked not to just lose he's going to have to make plays today if they're going to win. I don't think he's going to be able to do that. I have Dallas by certainly a touchdown or more. I think they get it done in a big way.
4-0 Cowboys. Those fans just start getting loud again. It's going to be a whole thing.
I can't stand the Cowboys, but Carolina moving to 4-0 to me would be a gigantic statement in my mind.
All right, this has been the Awesemo Betting Show presented by BetMGM. Be sure to lock in here to the Awesemo Odds channel. Give a subscription. We're with you every Sunday morning, 9 a.m. Eastern, and there's a lot of content to come. Ben's just getting started with his day over on the Awesemo DFS channel. NFL Deeper Dive starts at the top of the hour, and then live before lock, taking you right up to kickoff at 1 o'clock Eastern time. So we look forward to all that. Appreciate you guys getting involved in the chat as well. Any questions, we'll be hanging out in there for a little bit as well. For Ben Ross, I'm Pete McCarthy. Happy betting. Pretty sure, bud. We'll bring it back next week.
That's right. As we run the table.
Yeah.